anybody else, grabs you, shakes you, shoots you, blasts you, beams you, rocks you, loves you, and puts you right in the middle of all the action and adventure you've seen on the screen. Not anyone. If you want to go on the greatest rides, based on the biggest movies, you've got to go to the world's biggest movie studio and greatest theme parks. Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios Florida. The only places on Earth where you can ride the movies.
Oh, okay, class, settle down now. Today's lesson is on modern family trends of the 90s. Now, what does the family of the 90s want? Janie?
A dog?
A dog. Good. Billy?
A nice no-load mutual fund?
Well, Billy, I was thinking more along the lines of basic necessities, you know, home, good health is very important. But most important is, of course, a video library. Yes, building a library of favorite videos has become an important trend for the family of the 90s. Now,
See anything of interest? That's what I thought.
Hey, Fox and Judester. So, it's lunchtime, I'm getting, really peckish and stuff, and I was wondering if you wanted me to order pizza or anything. I'm thinking of trying down espressos. I mean, I know they use orange soda for the crust, but it tastes really nice and sweet.
We'll pass for now.
Is there something on your mind? Normally you don't turn down the opportunity for free lunch.
There's something else I'm hungry for. Start of the new season. Once again, I'm left asking myself the normal question.
Now, don't tell me. Why?
Exactly. Why? Why must I continue with this? Why must I review movies that folks have rarely even heard of, or ones that they might have and nearly forgotten about, or even some of the mainstream stuff? I mean, in another lifetime, I could have been a novelist, but no. Here I am, surrounded in a room of opportunities with an existential worry.
Well, whatever it is, I'm certain you'll find it. I mean, look at it this way. You traveled through time, you fought an alternate film snob version of yourself and defeated him, and you got the girl of your dreams back. What's there to worry about? Though if it were me, I'd probably start things off with comedy, but hey, if you need a slice or any more advice, let me know, right?
He's right. I probably should go with a comedy. The only question is, what kind of comedy? Spot something? What is it? What is it? Comedy, all right. An underrated one.
In the jungle I run tonight. Find the beast of logical light. No confusion, just run the right. Oh yeah. Solving mysteries with nothing to lose. Magic leaves you without any clues. There's only so much one man can do. Oh yeah. Only solution. Jump up and down. I just wanna hear. Only solution. Oh, it won't be long. It won't take too long. Only solution. Jump up and down. I just wanna hear. Logical solutions. Clear visions. Clear visions.
Argue if you will, the 1990s was a major turning point for cinema. And I know past decades like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s provided some major classics that turned the tide of movie making, but here was the point when things really took a change. There was a lot of digital technology that were advancing special effects, And on top of that, there was a lot of movies that were offering more escapism, with high concept ideas, and less, we're just doing this for the critics motif. But it all had to start somewhere. And if I had to theorize exactly where all of this started to trend, it would be here, with Death Becomes Her. The idea originated from screenwriters David Coop and Martin Donovan, who envisioned an anthology-style feature with 4 grisly tales set in an apartment. The highlight involved a husband killing his wife, without knowing she was a witch that can't die. Coop and Donovan loved it so much they decided to expand upon it more. However, many studios turned it down for fearing it was too weird. After Bad Influence, then head of Universal Studios, Casey Silver, brought Coop in for any ideas he had. Coop pitched Death Becomes Her, which was integrated into his studio deal with Universal. It was passed to director Robert Zemeckis, who enjoyed the screenplay for its dark comedy and original concept. At the time, Robert Zemeckis was well known for the Back to the Future movies and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but there was one other element that folks seem to overlook when the name Zemeckis comes up. His dark comedies. At heart, Zemeckis enjoys a twisted sense of humor which can be traced back to his script work for 1941 and one of his earlier films, Used Cars. While the dark comedy is a bit rough on the edges, it's entries like these that would shape his later work.
Look out, Marshall Lucky! It's high prices!
Take this, you dirty old high prices! You got me, Marshall! Jesus Christ.
Another prime example was his contribution to Spielberg's short-lived anthology TV series Amazing Stories, with the episode Go to the Head of the Class. This Zemeckis-directed one-hour eclair has 2 students getting revenge back at their teacher, played by Christopher Lloyd, with the power of witchcraft. Spoiler alert, the plan backfires.
Where do you two think you're going?
This clearly shows Zemeckis paying respect to creating a ghoulish atmosphere, and the dark comedy being a near precursor to what we will see in today's episode. Also, if you think Christopher Lloyd is scary as Judge Doom, you, my friend, are missing out.
I want to see you in detention, Mr. Brown.
Perhaps the most notable was his contribution to HBO's Tales from the Crypt. While this was the baby of producer Joel Silver, the involvement of Zemeckis is something that can't be ignored. His work on the pilot, which was an adaptation of All Through the House, would serve as a template for future episodes. As a fan of the original EC comics, Zemeckis would later direct some episodes and serve as an executive producer on the show. You know, it's trivia like this that makes me wonder if dark comedies were at the center of Zemeckis' heart. But for something that was envisioned to be a low-budget $5 million flick, does the extra effort plugging into it pay off? Or are we just looking at an over-bloated injection? Before we dig right in, I would like to warn folks that there's going to be some spoilers ahead. This is the kind of movie that's not really plot-driven per se, but more character-driven, and thus things have to be broken down scene by scene by scene in order to understand the positives and negatives. In short, just because you watch my show, it does not technically mean you've seen the movie. What you're looking at is a Cliff Notes version with funny anecdotes and jokes. Trust me, watching the movie is a whole different experience altogether. Yes, even if it's a bad one, but I digress. We start off with an extended prologue that sets up our leads. Madeline Ashton, a conceited actress that doesn't care about common criticism, played by Meryl Streep, and her frenemy Helen Sharp, played by Goldie Hawn. I love how the vanity of both characters are deeply rooted beyond beauty, and it gets funnier when we discover their rivalry goes all the way back to childhood. 2 Cruella de Villes for the price of one that can't stand each other, yet they're both friends. This is established in one of my favorite scenes in the opening when Madeline is performing in a Broadway show. We see in one continuous take the show is being performed to a near-empty crowd, with Helen and her fiancé having mixed reactions.
I just love how the crowd deems a narcissistic song bad taste and just leaves in pure disgust over it.
Thank God you wanted to leave. Taxi! Madeline, Ashton, talk about waking the dead.
I gotta get a drink.
It's just awful.
You think that's bad? You should see what's playing in the theater next door.
You'll be a son be a
I know, I could be a pretty big ham back then too.
What ignites their rivalry further is plastic surgeon Ernest Menville, played by Bruce Willis. He starts off as Helen's fiancé, but finds himself smitten with Madeline to the point he eventually marries her. This pushes Helen over the edge, to which we see her 7 years later as depressed and overweight. She spends most of her time dishing on cake frosting and watching her enemy get strangled in Michael Caine thrillers. Now that's both twisted and hilarious. While Helen spends time in an asylum, we jump ahead another 7 years to 1992. Madeline's star power has declined to the point she cares about her beauty. Meanwhile, Ernest goes from plastic surgery to becoming a drunk embalmer that beautifies dead bodies. What a decline going from touching up the living to making the dead look good. I especially like how the main leads take a complete change in look that fits the personality. Madeline is obsessed with her own vanity, Ernest is trapped in a deadbeat job that deteriorates his talent, and Helen seeks poetic justice for her ruined life. Speaking of which, the plot sets in motion when Madeline and Ernest are invited to Helen's party to celebrate her published novel. And what a surprise they get.
Oh, looks as though she's lost a few pounds. We're leaving.
It's like they took Roseanne Barr, stuffed her into a sausage grinder, and out came just like a rabbit.
A common theme of Death Becomes Her is the obsession of looks, which I highly applaud. A lot of that can be contributed to the setting and makeup work. In order to aid our three leads, famed makeup designer Dick Smith was a creative consultant in order to, say for example, age Meryl Streep from the age of 35 to 50. And rightfully so, given Smith's work is notable for aging famous actors on such outings like The Godfather, The Exorcist, and Amadeus. And while his work in the horror genre is legendary, if you want to age someone, Dick Smith is the one to go with to know how. The last thing I need is something hilariously bad like old Bette Midler in For the Boys.
What's so funny?
Even Beverly Hills' setting gives an otherworldly feel that is satirical and really calls out how obsessed we are with our own looks. In today's world of body shaming and constant fixation on looking forever young, this movie really communicates that well.
Seriously, can you recall a spa like this where workers are dressed like Victoria's Secret models, yet the treatments look like something out of a David Lynch movie? I mean, who designed this place? The Harkonnens of J.D. Prime?
You are so beautiful, my Baron. Your skin, love to me.
It's here Madeline learns of a possible rejuvenation treatment from a mysterious woman named Liesel von Runman, to which she eventually relents and decides to visit.
I hope you'd come. Make some room for my friend, for Christ's sake. But keep your ass handy.
And played by the always astounding Isabella Rossellini. Wow.
I want you! I want her, Mike.
I know.
And for the 12 minutes of screen time she is in, Rossellini leaves an impact, not just for her physique, but performance. Her accent and sleek nature adds to the mystery of the character. And this lies in one major positive of the movie, which is the casting. Everyone is committed to this premise and sell the comedy by playing it straight. The only manner for over-the-top acting is done to express a character's vanity or sell the special effects of a sequence.
We are creatures of the spring, you and I.
I'm not really quite sure why I
You're
came.
scared as hell of yourself. I am the one who understands. I am the one who knows your secret.
I really do want her, Mike. In fact, I'm going up there right now.
Sit down there. I don't think you can do that.
Let me go. I'm going up there.
Sit down.
It helps balance the dark gothic tone in a manner to which helps us not take it too seriously. Come to think of it, if this movie's being done today, it probably would just be a straightforward horror flick.
Come to think of it, I'm actually pretty surprised by the performance of Bruce Willis. He normally just plays tough and gruff characters, but He's giving such an over-the-top performance that it's highly entertaining not to ignore. And he knows how to channel between being softly comedic and loud and comedic. I wonder why is that?
Bruce comes as a different person on every movie. I think it depends on who's managing the production, who's directing the show. I think when Bruce feels that the show's in control, he feels very comfortable in his acting space, and he'll try different stuff. He'll be funnier. He'll take it, he'll say, what if I try this? He can be more experimental knowing he's being well taken care of by the director. And so we were fortunate enough, because we have Bob as the director, to have a Bruce that was feeling really good about being there, going to work, working with these girls, working with this director, and showing a lot of sides of his acting chops that you may not normally see because of that.
Depending on the director, huh?
And what does Die Hard 5 mean to you right now?
It means it's the film right after Die Hard 4.
Oh, we got the Die Hard! Oh, shit! Yes! Fuck! Yes! Fucking A!
Fuck
yeah! That's great. Well done. Well done. Well done. Oh, got it!
Well, that explains why he was so cranky and tired during Die Hard 5. Is it too late to get him into another Wes Anderson movie? I really want to see him do more comedy.
The secret to Liesel's perfect body is a potion in her possession that gives an eternal youthful appearance, which of course comes with a big cost.
Well, for me, how much?
Check okay? Fine.
$1 million aside, it comes with a bigger cost.
Now a warning.
Now a warning?
Take care of yourself. You and your body are going to be together a long time.
The effects of the potion are successful, but there's a big catch. Oh, we'll get to that very soon. Meanwhile, Helen seeks to get her revenge back by manipulating Ernest to poison Madeline and make it look like her death was a drunk driving accident. Two things. One, I love how the visuals let us know how unstable Helen is despite acting reformed and calm. Two, the way she describes her plan is executed in this over-exaggerated manner that it can't be taken seriously. The best visual joke that gets a laugh every time I show this movie to someone who never saw it first time around is the heavy collection of liquor bottles in the car. Like, sure, that's how they're going to confirm her death was DUI. But perhaps this manipulates Ernest too well, as he finally gets the courage to tell Madeline off and tries to strangle her. When he realizes how wrong it is, Ernest stops, but right when she's on the top step of the stairs. I do love how Ernest is caught between saving her and just pushing her down the stairs. And the one thing that makes up his mind is Madeline insulting him.
Help me! Hurry up, you wimp!
Cool. I did it. I didn't think I'd be able to, but I did it. I pushed her down the stairs, and she is absolutely stone cold.
Exactly which part of the plan were you unclear on?
Okay, funny as that is, what comes after is even funnier. As Ernest talks to Helen on the phone, he's unaware Madeline is still alive, but something's not quite the same.
Ernest! Ernest! You pushed me down the stairs.
Stay away from me!
And right here is what stole the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects from Alien 3. 1 year before ILM unleashed dinosaurs for the summer of 1993, they broke new ground with CGI skin textures for the first time ever. And a couple of decades after this movie's release, it still looks impressive.
It's a testament to Robert Zemeckis and his credit illusionist will to use visual effects. And I'll admit that movies do better in any medium, and that's a given. And yeah, Zemeckis tends to overdo some of the special effects in his films, but when it's done right, they feel like visual marvels. The time travel scenes in Back to the Future, seeing Forrest Gump and Doc Brown interact with historical figures, Philippe's walk. These are the moments that stick with me more from Zemeckis films, and less of this.
What a sheep! Will the king spare nothing?
Bonjour. We're shaking with le bacon.
Qui sont
These beautiful dolls, these are the women of Marvel.
Look, I give credit where credit is due, but sometimes less is more.
The scene itself is a major highlight of special effects, and credit for that goes to Robert Zemeckis for suggesting the scene. During production, he frequently collaborated with David Coop and Martin Donovan to punch up some scenes or rewrite some stuff. Zemeckis thought it'd be more interesting to have Madeline get pushed down the stairs and get up with her neck on backwards. While he was unsure how the effect was going to work, it still remains a showstopper that clearly was no easy task.
Ernest! My ass! I can see my ass!
Why didn't somebody tell me my ass was so big?
Originally, Amalgamated Dynamics made an animatronic model of Meryl Streep for the scene, but you can kind of see why they used very little of it in the final cut.
Ernest!
Hiya!
Ernest!
Better, huh? That was better. That was pretty quick.
You pushed me down the stairs.
Oh, look at that robot. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh.
Ernest! Ernest! You pushed me down the stairs.
Holy Jesus Christ.
You pushed me down the stairs!
Now I'm ready for years of powerful Adlerian therapy, Mike.
This is worse than 7.
Instead, the scene was filmed with Meryl Streep acting the scene with the blue mask on her head, and one separately on a blue screen set with the focus on her head. Every time I see this and the later visual effects of the movie, I keep looking for where the seams are, but I still end up marveling over the technical craft.
Honey, I think I need a doctor.
But there's so much more to marvel up ahead, because when we come back from commercial break, we got more special effects to dazzle at, Bruce Willis overacting, and the original ending you did not see. Stay tuned.
There's no guarantee that two heads are better than one, that diamonds are a girl's best friend, or that practice makes perfect. But there's one guarantee you can always count on, the new McDonald's guarantee. Our promise of hot food, fast, friendly service, and drive-through orders double-checked to be right. If not, we'll make it right, or your next meal is on us.
What you want is what you get.
Some things in life are guaranteed.
Every once in a while, your soft drink routine needs a change. We recommend adding, at regular intervals, a 7-Up. The Uncola. It's a clean, crisp change from the everyday. Caffeine-free 7-Up. The Uncola. Put some un in your life.
Come on, let me show you where it's at. Come on, let me.
It's a universal truth. Miller Lite's brewed from the start to be the one great-tasting beer that's less filling. It's everything you want a beer to be.
Another unexplained crop formation has been sighted. Looks like there's intelligent life out there, after all.
As mentioned earlier, Death Becomes Her is the kind of movie that you just can't break down element by element because every little scene just connects together. One character's actions causes another to happen, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So to describe what happens from beginning to end would be kind of wrong. So I'm doing as best as I can to try to keep this spoiler-free as possible while giving away little tiny details of interest. Because let me tell you, everything that's set up in the beginning of the movie collides beautifully in the last half.
Upon discovering his wife can't die, Ernest thinks it's a miracle and tries to fix her up with spray paint. Side note, I do like how that is set up earlier when he talks to someone about his work, and it pays off hilariously here. However, there's one thing he forgot, and it's not the turpentine.
Where is she?
Before Ernest can explain the miraculous event, Madeline overhears of their plight and has her own retort.
You brought this on yourself.
She's dead!
These are the moments that make life worth living.
But surprise!
I'm soaking wet.
And there seems to be something wrong with your, blouse.
And this is exactly what I meant by saying every scene of this movie is connected. I mean, the beauty of a movie is just surprise and how it plays with audience expectations. Hence why it's best you probably sort of stopped watching this video a couple minutes ago and just saw the film either way. I can't stress enough that my show is more like a bonus feature and less of a film itself.
The twist alone that Helen also paid Liesl a visit makes for a good shock and laugh. Not only are these two Cruella de Vil's given the will to outlive each other, but it very much turns into an everlasting Itchy and Scratchy cartoon.
Yes! No! Oh, damn!
Still, I like how after they smash each other like Tex Avery cartoons, both vain characters come to their senses and figure they might as well be friends if they're gonna be around for all eternity. Finally fed up with their antics, Ernest decides to fix their bodies one last time, but this possesses a problem. Given Ernest only has the skills, the two realize they need an extended protection plan for their regular maintenance. The solution? Why not have Ernest drink the potion? Well, if they were smart as Leon for Midnight Madness, they would have thought this plan through very well, given his conscience kicks in.
I don't want to live forever. I mean, it sounds good, but what am I gonna do? What if I get bored? And what if I get lonely? Who am I gonna hang around with, Madeline and Helen?
But you never grow old.
Yes, but everybody else will. I'll have to watch everyone around me die. This is not a dream, this is a nightmare.
Ah, the emotional journey comes to a close. Madeline and Helen realize there's no point in fighting each other if they're going to keep living for an eternity, and Ernest realizes to wake up from his drunken stupor and realize that life is worth living. Now, you could argue that these characters are unlikable, but that's kind of the point. It's a morality tale. Characters go through the emotions and experience the actions what they caused, and eventually they get their just desserts, which is the practical norm of EC Comics or any anthology episode, be it Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, Amazing Stories, and Outer Limits to an extent. But that's just part of the joy of this film. You see these characters go through everything, and by the end of it, they finally get the payoff they deserve. And unfortunately, that would involve spoiling the ending, which I don't want to do because that's the best thing of this whole film. It's the conclusion, how they get their punishment. But what I can tell you is how it almost ended.
It's no surprise to mention that tons of scenes were cut from this movie. In fact, to this very day, they remain unreleased to the public. Most of them were trimmed for pacing purposes, or based from the reaction of test audiences, some of which were rewritten earlier on. One such case was when the Liesl character was actually revealed to be Cleopatra, and they had some versions where she tried to capture famous figures for her own interest. Some of that does remain here, but it only works as a visual joke that's still pretty funny.
I must remind all of you who staged your own deaths of our very strict policy against popping up in public to grab a few headlines.
Trying to have some fun, man. That's all I was doing.
I won't name names.
Thankfully, I'm glad the whole Cleopatra twist wasn't used. It ruins the mystery of the Liesel character. One cutscene you can quickly glimpse in the trailers has Ernest using the refrigerator to keep Madeline's body cool, like a morgue.
I'm so sweaty.
I don't think it's sweat, honey. I think you're defrosting.
Some have rumored that this discarded material was lost in a studio fire, but I'd rather not take that into consideration. It's most likely that these were just discarded and lost, or they're in a salt mine, or happen to be in the hands of a private collector. But until we know for certain that they still exist, they're going to remain unreleased for the time being, but at least the knowledge of the existence of what was there is important. Which leads me to believe if the original ending is sadly lost to the sands of time as much as this discarded material.
Originally, Ernest would have escaped from the mansion and met up with a bartender played by Tracy Ullman. The movie originally had a minor subplot where Ernest would visit her and find romance. They fake his death with a barfly that dies conveniently at the counter, leading Madeline and Helen to think he's dead.
He's dead? Ernest is dead? Everybody's dead!
We would jump to years later where Madeline and Helen are vacationing in Switzerland and feel bored. They spot an elderly couple being affectionate, not realizing it was Ernest and the bartender. The only element that links to this lost conclusion is when Liesel heals Ernest's hand, which would have confirmed to the audience that he was still alive. Even then, test audiences didn't like this ending, and it was refilmed with a darker one. Thankfully, Tracy Ullman was good friends with Meryl Streep and understood the reason for her subplot as well as the ending for being axed. And if you're curious to know how it all ends in the theatrical cut,
I can't spoil a single frame of it. Believe me, it's something you have to see. It's a surprise of itself that makes it worth checking out.
But what I can give away is the magnitude of special effects used for this movie. As mentioned earlier, Death Becomes Her did win the Best Visual Effects Award at the 1993 Oscars, and it's rightfully earned. The movie utilizes not only a variety of digital and in-camera effects, but even opticals and miniatures that still look impressive to this day. Looking back now, I was unaware miniature effects were used for the opening shot of 1970s New York. And even though it's fairly obvious some shots near the climax are a composite of miniatures and blue screen work, I didn't know the exteriors of Liesel's mansion were complete miniature. Today, these would be done with CGI, but it's the craftsmanship of stuff like this that blows my mind more. As one would expect, the CGI effects, while fairly new, were only used when they were needed. I do wish today's movies would take note that not all effects need to be digital, and that's something that seems to be coming back more as of recent. While I discussed a good bulk of Death Becomes Her, there's still a good majority I didn't get to mention. The fine cinematography by John Carpenter and Amblin Entertainment veteran Dean Cundy, who gives Beverly Hills a twisted gothic look. The visual effects work of ILM alumni Ken Ralston. Hell, I didn't even talk about Sidney Pollack's hilarious cameo, or even Fabio?
Fabio, weird Fabio.
This is the kind of movie that is worth checking out on your own. To go over every little scene would just spoil the fun. To experience a movie like this is just simply to watch it, or else you will miss out on some really enjoyable stuff. Hilarious performances, visual effects that still look impressive to this day, and above all, an original and fun premise. It's an eternal catfight of the ages that really can't be missed.
So, how did Death Becomes Her fare at the box office? Well, it was unleashed in the summer of 1982, where it easily beat out newcomers Bebe's Kids and Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the top spot. On a budget of $55 million, it grossed, domestically, $58 million. Interestingly enough, when it was released to cinemas internationally, it did much better when it was released around the holiday season. And that kind of makes me wonder what would have happened if Death Becomes Her was released over here around the Halloween or the Christmas season instead of the summer. But then it would have to duke it out with Disney's Aladdin and Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. Despite the mixed reception, it has gained a cult following over time, thanks to home video sales, but interestingly enough, it's become a cult favorite among the LGBTQ community. Yeah, apparently there's drag queens that dress up as the characters, and the movie gets something of a Rocky Horror treatment when screened during Pride Month. Regardless, the movie's being remembered and celebrated, but I don't think it's not enough. My recommendation is just not enough. It's a great crowd pleaser if you love gothic comedies, and if you're looking for something different. Still, I just hope its mark on cinema is not forgotten. I mean, it was released 1 year before Jurassic Park, and it made so many intriguing technical advancements. Can't be that easily swept under the rug.
Oh, hey there. So, I couldn't stop thinking about how your movie hunger can be fulfilled, so I figured this would do the trick.
Next time, aim for the hand, not the head.
Because it's 3 points for the hand, 50 for the head.
The Scarecrow Video Movie Guide. Oh yeah, I've heard about this. Complete Bible to many filmmakers and film critics. People like Bernardo Bertucci, Quentin Tarantino, even Roger Ebert. This is like the Bible of movie guides that rivals that of Leonard Maltin. And he gave Laser Blast 2.5 stars. This is great. I could use this to find as many movies as I can. What have they said about Death Becomes Her? Let's see, index here. It's okay. Maybe it's director listed. Not in here. I can't believe it. For something that holds over 60,000 titles, it doesn't include it. And this even has John Woo's backing. How? I know this was crafted in 2004, but that movie was released in 1992. How could they overlook it? How could they have forgotten it? There's something called a movie guide. What a ripoff! I just... Of course. Don't listen to the movie guide. Be the movie guide. All this time I questioned why I do this. And I think I know why. There's plenty of movies out there that are underrated, overlooked, or sometimes there's a popular franchise that gets missed by the new generation, even if it's that well known. Well, as God is my witness, I shall be that movie guide for the cult classics, the underrated, the overlooked, and those that have yet to be explored. I'm not talking about historical epics, biopics, or dramas. Fantasy, comedy, sci-fi, maybe the occasional action pick, something for the kids, maybe something for the adults. Well, depends if I can get away with it, but that's besides the point. As God is my witness, no film shall be overlooked. No movie shall be forgotten. For if life is one continuing movie, then I hope it doesn't end. Unless I say it ends. And if this is a movie, then tomorrow is another film reel. As God is my witness, I will never stop.
There was mighty Joe Young, the creature from the Black Lagoon, King Kong, and now there is Guanji. Guanji, born 50 million years ago and bursting from the bowels of the earth today to terrorize the West. Guanji, the most mammoth monster of them all, terrifying survivor of a lost era, rampaging through a forbidden land, a land they call the Valley of Guanji. Call it amazing, fantastic, unbelievable, and call it the greatest monster movie ever. The Valley of Guanji, the strangest Western roundup ever, starring James Franciscus, Gila Golan, and Richard Carlson. From Warner Brothers 7 Arts, in exciting Dynamation and Technicolor. The Valley of Guanji is rated G, spectacular entertainment for the whole family.
Life has been good to me. Got very few complaints so far. Life has been good to me. Hope you're as happy wherever you are. I got the blue sky every morning, a big yellow moon at night. I always do whatever I want to, and everything I do, it always turns out right. Life has been good to me. Well, I admit I've had a ball. Life has been good to me. I never worry about nothing at all. I got some good friends, they adore me, know how to treat me right. I got a good man waiting for me. I won every fight I've been in, and it always turned out that I was right.
Cut.
Damn, I just fixed this.